September 15th, 1940. 11:27 a.m. 18,000 feet above the English Channel. The cockpit shakes like it's coming apart. Ice creeps across the canopy glass. Engine noise howls in uneven rhythm. Oxygen hisses into a masked face already slick with sweat. Below, the gray sea spins slowly, deceptively calm. Ahead, tiny black dots grow larger by the second. Enemy aircraft. Inside a Messerschmitt Bf 109, Oberleutnant Werner Mulders tightens his gloved hands around the control stick. His heartbeat is louder than the engine. His fuel is low. His ammunition even lower, but instinct overrides fear. You can almost feel the freezing wind clawing at the metal fuselage as he banks left. A British Spitfire flashes across his nose. Mulders squeezes the trigger. The sky explodes with tracer fire. In less than 3 seconds, the Spitfire's wing shears apart. The aircraft spirals downward, smoke pouring from its engine, vanishing into cloud and sea. No cheers, no celebration. Only the silent understanding that another life has ended and that the war in the sky has only just begun. This is the world of the Luftwaffe Aces, not soldiers on muddy fields. Not tank commanders rolling across Europe, but hunters of the clouds, men who fought at impossible speeds in frozen air where a single mistake meant instant death. And in 1939, Germany intended to rule that world. Before the first bombs fell on Poland, Adolf Hitler already believed air power would decide the future. The Luftwaffe was not just a support force, it was meant to dominate the battlefield from above. Speed, precision, terror. At the center of that vision were fighter pilots trained to become something new. Not just aviators, predators. Young men barely in their 20s arrived at flight schools across Germany. Their days blurred into brutal routines. Dawn takeoffs, emergency landings, gunnery drills, formation flying until exhaustion warped their vision. Mistakes were punished. Fear was ridiculed. Survival belonged to the disciplined. Every cadet learned the same truth early. In aerial combat, you don't get wounded. You disappear. Training aircraft stalled. Engines failed. Parachutes sometimes didn't open. Some students never made it to war. Those who did were forged into a new breed. Among them was Erich Hartmann, slim, quiet, almost boyish. Instructors initially doubted him. He lacked arrogance. He didn't brag. He listened. But once airborne, Hartmann transformed. He learned not to spray bullets wildly, not to chase, not to panic. Instead, he stalked. Approach unseen. Close the distance. Fire only when the enemy filled the entire windscreen. By war's end, Hartmann would become the highest-scoring fighter pilot in history. But in 1939, he was just another name on a roster staring at the sky, waiting for war to claim him. When Germany invaded Poland, Luftwaffe pilots tasted combat for the first time. It was fast, violent, almost unreal. Polish fighters tried to scramble from shattered runways as bombs fell. Messerschmitts cut through formations with brutal efficiency. The sky became a hunting ground, not a battlefield. Victories were counted in chalk on hangar boards. 1 kill, 2 kills, 5 kills. And suddenly a new word began spreading through squadrons. Ace. 5 confirmed victories meant prestige, respect. Survival odds increased because commanders trusted you with better machines, better positions, better wingmen. But the price was simple. You had to keep flying every day. Then came France. Then the Low Countries. And finally, Britain. The English Channel became a graveyard of aircraft parts and lost pilots. Luftwaffe Aces flew escort for bombers crawling across the water like steel whales. British radar saw them coming long before they arrived. Spitfires and Hurricanes climbed to meet them. And suddenly, the sky turned into a 3-dimensional slaughterhouse. You didn't fight one enemy. You fought dozens. Bullets punched through cockpits. Fuel tanks ignited. Wings tore loose. Parachutes bloomed, sometimes too low to save their pilots. Inside the chaos, Aces learned that survival wasn't heroic. It was cold. Detach emotionally. Trust instincts. Kill before hesitation kills you. Werner Mulders introduced a new formation tactic, the Finger Four. 2 aircraft leading, 2 trailing, spaced wide enough to protect each other without blocking vision. It changed everything. Instead of rigid formations, Luftwaffe fighters became flexible hunters. One pilot attacked, another covered. A third waited for escape routes. British pilots soon realized something terrifying. They weren't being chased. They were being herded, pulled into traps at 300 miles per hour. But dominance carried a cost. Every victory increased pressure. Aces were no longer just pilots. They became symbols, propaganda posters, newsreel heroes, tools for morale. Commanders wanted them airborne constantly. Fatigue crept in. Hands trembled before missions. Nightmares invaded sleep. Some pilots began to fear landing more than combat, because every successful landing meant tomorrow's flight. The sky didn't care how famous you were, it only waited. By late 1940, Luftwaffe Aces had transformed air combat forever. They weren't just flying planes. They were rewriting how wars would be fought in 3 dimensions. But something darker was forming above Europe. The enemies were adapting. Technology was advancing. And Germany's pilots were about to discover that hunting the skies is far easier than surviving them, because the higher you climb, the farther you fall. And for the Luftwaffe Aces, the deadliest chapters were still ahead. The Channel fades behind them. Silver water gives way to green English fields, dotted with villages that look peaceful from 20,000 feet. Inside the cockpit, nothing feels peaceful. The oxygen mask bites into skin. The engine vibrates through bone. Every sound could mean life or death. August 18, 1940, 12:41 p.m. Southern England. This day will later be called the hardest day of the Battle of Britain. Dozens of Luftwaffe formations punch through the clouds. Bombers crawl in tight boxes. Fighters weave above them like wolves guarding a herd. Sunlight flashes off wings. Vapor trails carve the sky into battle lanes. Then the radio crackles. Bandits, hi, 12 o'clock. Spitfires rise from below. The sky detonates. Oberleutnant Adolf Galland rolls his Bf 109 onto its back and dives. Wind screams over the canopy. The altimeter spins. His target swells in the gun sight, a hurricane climbing too steeply, too slow. Galland doesn't fire yet. He waits. Closer, closer. Now, the cannons hammer. The hurricane's engine bursts into flame. Pieces tear away like paper. The British pilot bails out, parachute snapping open as the burning aircraft slams into farmland. Galland pulls up hard, blacking out for a split second. When vision returns, the sky is chaos. Spitfires twisting through bombers. Tracers crossing like lightning. Aircraft tumbling with no wings left to hold them. You can almost feel how fast decisions must be made. No time to think. Only react. This is what Luftwaffe Aces live for, and what slowly kills them. Germany believed Britain would fall from the air, destroy the Royal Air Force, and invasion would follow. So Luftwaffe Aces were pushed to their limits. 3 missions a day, sometimes 4, engines barely cool before pilots climbed back in. Among them was Helmut Wick, handsome, confident, lethal. His victories climbed rapidly. 10, 20, 30. Every kill added pressure. Reporters visited airfields. Cameras filmed smiling pilots beside bullet-riddled fighters. Wick became a national hero, but heroes are expected to keep flying. Fatigue crept into the cockpit. Eyes burned from hours staring into clouds. hands cramped around control sticks, reflexes slowed by invisible exhaustion. In the sky, milliseconds matter, and aces were running out of them. British pilots learned fast. They stopped flying in neat formations. They climbed higher. They attacked bombers directly, forcing German fighters to break escort. Suddenly, Luftwaffe Aces weren't hunters anymore. They were firefighters, constantly reacting, constantly turning, constantly burning fuel and nerves. Galland later said the battle felt less like strategy and more like drowning in motion. Every direction contained danger. Meanwhile, Germany's ace factory expanded east. As the Battle of Britain raged, new pilots arrived at squadrons fresh from training. They idolized the aces. They wanted kill boards of their own. But idol worship doesn't stop bullets. Many rookies died in their first minutes of combat. An ace might survive by instinct. A newcomer hesitated and vanished. Some aircraft never radioed again, just empty sky. By late summer, something strange happened. Luftwaffe Aces began winning individual fights, but losing the war in the air. Bombers were shot down faster than fighters could protect them. British factories repaired runways overnight. Radar replaced guesswork. The RAF kept rising from destruction like a machine that refused to break. German pilots noticed it first. Fewer aircraft returned after missions. More empty beds in barracks. More helmets hanging untouched. Even heroes weren't immune. On November 28, 1940, Helmut Wick climbed for another patrol over the channel. He never came back. No wreckage, no parachute, just absence. Yet while Britain resisted, Germany turned east, a sky far larger, a war far bloodier. In 1941, Operation Barbarossa erupted against the Soviet Union. For Luftwaffe Aces, it felt like a hunter's paradise. Thousands of Soviet aircraft sat exposed on airfields. Messerschmitts tore through them before engines could even start. Victories stacked by the dozens. This is where legends were truly born. Enter Erich Hartmann. On the Eastern Front, he learned patience. While others chased kills, Hartmann circled quietly above clouds, waiting. He ignored distant targets. He refused risky shots. Instead, he crept closer than anyone dared. So close he could see faces in cockpits. Only then did he fire. Short bursts. Engines shattered. Aircraft dropped like stones. Soviet pilots began whispering a name. The Black Devil. They learned to flee if his black tulip-painted nose appeared. Hartmann didn't celebrate. He landed, refueled, took off again, and hunted. But victory numbers hid a darker truth. The Eastern Front devoured pilots. Weather froze engines. Anti-aircraft fire filled the horizon. Soviet numbers kept growing. Even aces began feeling hunted. The Luftwaffe wasn't rotating pilots home like the Allies would later do. German aces flew until wounded, captured, or killed. There was no escape contract, only altitude, only tomorrow's mission, only the sky waiting again. By 1942, Luftwaffe Aces were reaching superhuman scores and inhuman exhaustion. They were winning battles in the air. But Germany was losing control of the skies. And a new enemy was forming above them, not just pilots, not just fighters, but endless waves of Allied bombers that would soon turn Germany itself into the battlefield. And when the hunters finally had to defend their own homes, even legends would start falling.